I think starting is always the intimidating part. And isn't that true of so many things? Hey guys, this is Megan from You Go to Beginning. Today's the day. So yesterday we harvested our first ever lamb. I did not film any of that because we didn't know what we were doing. We still barely know what we're doing, but I will try to show just a little of the process of our very first sheep harvest. And it obviously won't include a ton of stuff, but I did want to share that this is what we're doing this week. It is a huge milestone for us. This is the first time we've ever harvested them. So come along, watch the process with us. It won't be a teaching video because this is only the second time we've ever done it. So yesterday being the first. So join us. We've got 2 to do today, and hopefully it won't take us too long. So we're using some hay to get them close. We had put this cedar tree in just to help with some worms and stuff, or prevent them anyway. Well, we got one done. We have one left to go, and this one was much faster. We got this one done in about an hour and a half. Yesterday, our first one took us, I think, over 3 hours. We had to, watch a video and stop and then check to make sure we were doing the next step correctly. So I expect that this third one will go much faster. But overall, we've just learned a ton from doing it. It's not nearly as intimidating as we thought it would be. I think starting is always the intimidating part, and isn't that true of so many things? We were definitely intimidated to start. We've been putting it off for way too long. It's the end of February, and these guys we should have done before winter, before we started feeding hay. So that's on us, but sometimes that first time is really, really hard. So just encourage you, if you have something you are putting off, it probably won't be as bad as you think it is. So just go do it, go get started, and you can always ask for help if you get stuck. But anyway, it went really well. We've got one left to go. We braked for lunch, and we're gonna come back and get this guy done in just a minute. And then I will share a couple things that we learned, a couple tips about some tools we've used, some things I wish we had bought different but I didn't know, and just a few tips and tricks that we figured out from doing this. But overall, I'm so thankful that it's gone well. I'm thankful that we're getting it done, and I'm really thankful for food in our freezer. I really appreciate the sacrifice that an animal makes so we can eat, and I'm glad that we were able to give these guys a good life. We finished. We got 3 done. The last one was the fastest. We got it finished in just under an hour and a half. So now we have to deal with the leftovers. We usually just take them way out in our woods and dump them, so that way any wildlife is just attracted back there and not brought up here to the farm. We're going to try to run that out, and then I'll come back and I'll show you some of the tools we used and what we would probably change if we were doing it again. Alrighty, so we're all finished up, and I wanted to talk about the tools we used and which ones were super helpful and which ones we might change out. So first and foremost is this Havalon knife. So this is a knife by Havalon. I'll put a link to it. We just got it on Amazon, but it uses a scalpel blade, like a surgical scalpel. They swap out blades really easily. The blades themselves are really cheap because you can just buy them from a medical supply place if needed, and those have been awesome. We use those for our chickens. We used them to do almost all of the skinning, and I would recommend those a million times over, because as new butchers, we hit bone, we mess up, and those are super easy and cheap to replace, and I don't have to be good at sharpening. We really love those. So then the other thing that we needed while we were actually processing was something to help us open up the cavity to do the guts. And honestly, this is my husband's old hunting knife. It's just a Schrade, but it has that gut hook. And so we did use that. We kind of put our hand in the cavity and then drew that hook in front of our hand down, so that way we wouldn't have any issues, we wouldn't break anything, and that worked really well. So some sort of hook like that on a knife would be a huge plus when you are trying to process an animal like this. And then to cut it apart, so we have not yet butchered it. All we did was cut it in thirds so we could store it in our ice chests. We don't have refrigerator space, so we are using ice chests and ice, and thankfully it's still pretty cold out. So that's what we're using to kind of age and cool our meat. So the one knife that we use to help us cut stuff up is this Victorinox 8-inch fillet. I think it's a semi-stiff fillet knife that just came off Amazon. That knife worked great. I'm very happy with that, and it was not very expensive. And then the last thing we needed is a bone saw, and so I bought this one. I'll put a link to it. This is off of Amazon, and on the one hand, it seems, nice and heavy and sturdy, but the teeth are really coarse. And so we had a heck of a time getting it to actually work on the bones. It was just really hard to get it going. So we watched a video by the Bearded Butchers. I'll try to link them below too. I watched a video from them, and I noticed that theirs was super fine, and that wasn't even something that I thought to check when I was buying it. So I just looked up a bone saw, found one with good reviews, and didn't even realize that was a thing. So that's my tip, is to make sure you find one with a finer tooth. It'd be a lot easier to cut through. But otherwise, our tools worked really well. We got it all done. It wasn't too much trouble. Alrighty, so we butchered on Saturday and Sunday, and today is Wednesday, and I am going to start cutting it up. So I guess technically this is butchering. We processed and slaughtered over the weekend. So this is Wednesday. I'm going to get out the lambs. I think we quartered the first one, and we cut the second two in thirds just to break them up to get them in our ice chests. We stored them in our ice chests on tons of ice to keep them cool. And so now today I'm going to start to try the butchering process. I've never done this before. I'm not even very familiar with what the cuts should be. So I have a book and I have YouTube, and I'm just going to try my best. But what I did want to share with you is how much the pieces we have weigh now. We weren't able to get a hanging weight on them or a live weight. We don't have a scale that big. So I don't know how much they weighed to start with, but they are just about 1 year old. Actually, 1 year, they were born on February 3rd last year. So they're just over 1 year old, 100% grass fed, no supplements of any kind, other than maybe the very occasional alfalfa pellets. So I wanted to give a realistic expectation of what a 1 year old grass fed Katahdin lamb would give you. And so let me show you that in just a minute. Alrighty, so this is the first piece I have out. This is one of the rear legs. Now this is actually from the 2-year-old lamb that we had that had gone through a drought and had a selenium deficiency. And so he was pretty stunted, but technically he was just about 2 years old. And so we just added up the 4 quarters that we cut up, and he was 45.4 pounds. So 45 pounds of stuff that I have here. Now, obviously, this includes all the bones. We haven't cut anything at all. But that's pretty good. I mean, that's not huge, but I think that's to be expected. So I would consider him only a 1-year-old ram since we had such a growth issue, and then I will compare to what my other ones are. So I'm going to cut on this a little bit, but I have no idea what I'm doing, and we didn't quite cut it in the right spot while we were processing him, so this is not a teaching video. So, wish me luck. I did it. I did the first leg of lamb. It's slow going, but I was able to get a couple of the bones out that I needed to and cut around. I am using the Bearded Butchers tutorial. They have a how to butcher a leg of lamb with traditional tools only. And so that is on my computer, which I can see in front of me. The kids are helping me pause and rewind to watch, but I got one done and a million more to go. I'm probably not going to do them all today. I'm just trying to go through it, and then I think I'm going to do the other rear leg and then probably call it quits for now because I'm hungry. It's lunchtime, and Damien's not here, and I'm kind of making it up as I go. So it's not too bad, but make sure that you have time on your hands, and a friend to help you decide what cuts to do would be helpful, but I'm really just kind of watching what these guys do on their video. I'll make sure to link that down below. So I did get those final weights on all 3 lambs. I had to take the parts out of the ice chest and weigh them. So I only have finished butchering the one older lamb that was 2 years old, and he weighed 44, just around 44, 45 pounds. And I actually kind of listed out, I have a little cheat sheet here. I listed out all the cuts that I was able to get, and I vacuum sealed, and then I weighed all of those. So total with all the cuts taken out, I got 31 pounds of meat plus all the soup bones. So I have 2 big packs. I actually already threw a batch of broth in that roaster there and got that all packaged up. I was able to do just shy of a gallon. Almost 3 gallons of broth. And I'm actually going to get that in my freeze dryer and get that going. So that was kind of awesome to just tackle that and get that done with. But so that first lamb, who was 2 years old but had growth issues, was 44 pounds, and I got 31 pounds of meat out of him. And then the other 2 lambs, which I have not butchered yet, that took me all day yesterday to complete the 1 lamb. And I'm going to wait for Damien's help on the other guys. But they were 28.6 pounds and 28 pounds. So significantly smaller and a year younger. It's interesting, out in the field, they didn't look that different. And on the one hand, that's not a ton of weight. But at the same time, I mean, it does definitely add up. So they were almost 15 pounds smaller than that other guy. But that's okay. That should make it easier. Really, it did go well yesterday, butchering everything out. It just was slow, mostly deciding what to cut and then going through the trimmings and deciding what was good to go in the grind bucket and what wasn't. But overall, it was a good experience. I talked about tools for butchering or for the processing part. And again, my only complaint is that saw. It has a really coarse tooth. That was terrible. In the house, the only tool I added to what I used outside is my KitchenAid stand mixer. I bought a meat grinder attachment for it, and that worked wonderfully. So I definitely can recommend that KitchenAid meat grinder. That was perfect. It comes in a really nice box, which is hiding back there on the counter, that actually lets you store it all super easily. So I'm really happy with that I don't have another appliance. It's kind of the size of another appliance, but it just hooks up to my mixer. That worked great. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming with us on this journey. This first time processing our own lambs. It was a huge daunting task and we finally got it done. We do have 2 more to cut up, but that's not going to be too big of a deal, especially with Damien's help. But we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you've ever processed your own animal, I'd love to hear how it went, or if you have recommendations for better tools, we'll take them. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.